My brother and I are developing an open-world Tech-Noir RPG called Without Judgement. Set in the neon-lit landscape of Florida in 2055, you take on the role of Kurt Walter, a hard-boiled homicide detective. When we talk about modern RPGs and immersive sims, we tend to focus on huge maps, massive amount of content, and long quest lines. But there is something older, more fundamental, that once defined these games: the simulation underneath. The sense that you are stepping into a living world where systems interact, where people have lives of their own, and where your actions ripple through a complex web of consequences. To understand what we are building with Without Judgement, you need to look back, because what we are doing is rooted in a design tradition that stretches back over 35 years. In 1988, Richard Garriott's Ultima 5 was released. At the time, most games were entirely static. NPCs stood still, waiting for you to interact with them, doing nothing until you arrived. But Ultima 5 was different. For the first time, NPCs had daily schedules. Blacksmiths woke up in the morning, left their homes, walked to their forges, and worked during the day. At night, they would head to the tavern or go home to sleep. Fishermen woke up at dawn and went fishing. If you broke into a house at 3 AM, you might find the resident sleeping inside. This was one of the first real attempts to create a simulated world that continued to function with or without the player. You weren't the center of the universe anymore. You were simply living in it. Ultima 6 expanded this further. Characters worshipped at shrines, visited markets, gathered in town squares. The AI was primitive by today's standards, but the principle was clear: a world that moves independently. One that you can observe, adapt to, and interact with in unexpected ways. This was the seed of what would later evolve into Radiant AI. And it wasn't just about immersion. It was about creating real opportunities for problem solving, for watching the world, learning its patterns, and using those patterns to your advantage. Decades later, the Elder Scrolls Oblivion took the same idea and pushed it much further. Every NPC in Oblivion followed a daily routine that could be observed and exploited. Shopkeepers opened stores at sunrise, visited taverns, gossiped with neighbors, and even got into arguments. Guards patrolled set routes, but would stop and investigate strange behavior. If you committed a crime, you weren't just triggering a scripted event. Guards would search for you, chase you down, and try to arrest you. Even small details created dynamic outcomes. You could drop valuable items on the ground and nearby NPCs might notice them, pick them up, and sometimes even fight each other for the loot. None of this was directly scripted, it came from systems, needs, wants, priorities that the AI calculated on its own. That's what made Oblivion feel alive. You weren't walking through a linear experience, you were living inside a simulation. When Skyrim came out in 2011, many of these systems still existed, but were scaled back. The Radiant AI was simplified. Yes, NPCs still followed basic schedules, shopkeepers opened and closed stores, guards wandered towns, and characters went to bed at night, but many of the complex dynamic interactions that defined Oblivion were either removed or heavily restricted. NPCs no longer fought over loot. Conversations became more controlled. The unpredictability was reduced. The simulation shrank while the world itself grew. Stability took priority over emergent gameplay. And by the time Starfield arrived in 2023, much of the simulation had disappeared entirely. Despite offering more than 1,000 planets, most NPCs just stand still waiting for you to approach and activate the dialogue trees. Quest givers rarely move. Guards don't patrol meaningful routes. The world exists only as a stage for you to walk across. There is very little underneath, very few systems driving emergent behavior. Starfield has massive amounts of content, hundreds of star systems, thousands of planets, huge amounts of dialogue, and endless quests. But size isn't what defines a simulated world. Systems do. You land on a planet, enter a city, and everyone is frozen until you step into range. Compare that to Daggerfall or the Ultima games, or even to Baldur's Gate. Starfield represents something very different. It's big, but it's hollow. It's reactive only when you press the button. The planets don't exist unless you land on them. The cities don't run unless you walk into them. In Oblivion, one NPC travels to another city once every month. On paper, Star Citizen sounds like it should be the ultimate immersive simulation. Massive planets, huge space stations, hundreds of ships, full player economy, and a living universe. And yet, after all these years, the game still feels strangely empty. The problem is that Star Citizen confuses simulation with interactions. Yes, there is complex flight model. Yes, There are beautiful planets, but the world itself isn't alive. The cities are beautiful but sterile. NPCs mostly stand around or walk simple loops. There is no meaningful AI simulation happening behind the scenes. You don't observe someone's routine, learn their behavior, wait for the right moment to act. The world is just there, pretty to look at, but not something you interact with on a systematic level. Even the missions often boil down to very basic loops. Go here, deliver this, kill that. The systems don't interlock in interesting ways. There is no emergent problem solving, no cause and effect simulation where the world truly reacts to your decisions. The simulation, the beating heart of immersive RPGs, had all but vanished. And this is where Without Judgement comes in. We believe the industry abandoned something important. It abandoned the thing that made these worlds feel alive. The core philosophy of simulated systems interacting beneath the surface. That's what we are bringing back. In Without Judgement, every major NPC has a routine. They don't stand around waiting for you to press a button. They live their lives. Here's an example. In the Florida Keys, a police informant living inside one of the city's mega buildings moves between floors, buys drugs from dealers, gets high in his apartment, and interacts with various tenants throughout the day. You can follow him, observe his habits, wait for him to be vulnerable, or cut a deal when the time is right. But he doesn't stand still. He doesn't wait for you. Patrolling guards don't walk predictable cycles. They stop at vending machines for a drink. They take unscheduled breaks. Sometimes they have conversations with other guards, creating a natural blind spots and openings. You can study these patterns and slip past unnoticed. Or you can create your own openings, hack drones, disable lights, or cut the power entirely. Or power systems are fully simulated. You can shut down electricity to entire buildings. Suddenly, turrets deactivate, cameras fail, lights go out, and the elevators stop working. You're not just pressing a stealth button, you're manipulating the environment itself to create a new tactical opportunity. We also built a fully functional cyberspace. The in-game internet isn't just for flavor text. It's a living system you can interact with to gather intel, manipulate financial systems, or disable security remotely. NPCs have vices, weaknesses, and personal histories. High-powered CEOs secretly addicted to drugs can be followed, blackmailed, or exposed. Dealers and informants have schedules you can observe and exploit. The criminal underground operates as a living ecosystem of its own, not a scripted set of quests. Reputation matters too. If you build trust with certain factions, new doors open that you never would have seen otherwise. If you betray or anger a faction, doors close, sometimes permanently. This is the design philosophy we are building Without Judgement around. We are not interested in checklist-style content, endless icons on your map. We want you to step into a city that feels alive, a city that runs whether you are there or not, a world that trusts you to pay attention, make decisions, and deal with the consequences. The design lineage we are following started with Ultima and Deus Ex, evolved through Oblivion, was simplified in Skyrim, and disappeared in Starfield. But it doesn't have to end there. Without Judgement is the next step in immersive simulations.
None of this would be possible without your support. If you want to experience the world of Without Judgement, here is how you can join. Patreon to access behind the scenes content and play the game's demo. Discord to join our community, discuss the game and chat with us. And Steam to wishlist Without Judgement and stay updated on the development. We are also looking for voice actors and publishers. If you are interested in any of these, send me a message on Discord.
You should also check out Without Judgement Tabletop RPG. It has a lot of lore, a timeline, more than 100 random encounters, 4 megacities, rules for hexcrawling in a megacity, an introductory adventure, and a lot more. It also has a unique rule set that my brother and I like to use in our campaigns, but that isn't the core focus of the book. The heart of it are the encounters, ideas, and inspiration you can draw from it.